Chosen one, you called it with the precision of cosmic prophecy, and now you're watching every single prediction unfold with the inevitability of divine justice. This obsessed individual still won't be quiet because their ego refuses to accept the spiritual beatdown they've received at the hands of universal forces beyond their comprehension, and their continued noise only serves as a broadcasting system for your complete vindication, while they spiral deeper into the consequences of challenging someone who operates under protection they could never touch. Remember that unsettling feeling when you realized someone was studying you like a science project, the way certain conversations felt orchestrated, how specific information about your life kept surfacing in places it shouldn't have been. Your inner knowing was screaming alerts while your logical mind was still trying to make sense of the patterns. What you were witnessing was the birth of an obsession so profound that this drama queen would sacrifice their own sanity trying to decode the source of your power. They saw your success, your protection, your natural magnetism, and instead of learning from it, they decided to steal it. The multitasking manipulation that followed would have impressed you with its scope if it were not so pathetically misdirected. Think of a desperate person with 16 different bottles of poison, each labeled with a different aspect of your life they intended to contaminate. Your career, your relationships, your reputation, your peace of mind. They had assigned different flying monkeys to attack each area simultaneously. The coordination required for such an operation reveals just how much mental real estate you were occupying in their consciousness. While you were building an empire, they were building an entire conspiracy theory with you as the central character. They recruited knights for their crusade, messengers who would carry their manufactured version of truth to anyone willing to listen. These weren't just random people. These were individuals they specifically selected based on their own insecurities and grudges. They promised them validation, gave them a target for their frustrations, and convinced them they were fighting for justice. What they didn't anticipate was that truth has a way of surfacing like oil on water, and their carefully crafted narrative had more holes than a fishing net. The first revelation came when one of their own flying monkeys started asking uncomfortable questions. Remember how you predicted this would happen? How you knew that people recruited through manipulation would eventually turn when they realized they were being used. The knight they sent to investigate your vulnerabilities came back with reports that didn't match their expectations. Instead of finding weakness, they found strength. Instead of discovering secrets to exploit, they encountered transparency that made their accusations look absurd by comparison. The cognitive dissonance began eating away at their support network like acid. Meanwhile, your life continued its upward trajectory with almost supernatural momentum. New opportunities materialized with timing so perfect it seemed choreographed by divine forces. Resources flowed toward you like rivers, redirected by cosmic intervention. People of genuine influence and integrity began gravitating toward your energy, recognizing something authentic and unshakable that couldn't be manufactured or mimicked. The contrast between your rising fortune and their descending chaos became so stark that even their most loyal supporters began questioning which side of this conflict held the moral high ground. The investigation phase was inevitable, chosen one, because lies require constant maintenance while truth sustains itself. When multiple versions of the same story started circulating, people naturally began comparing notes. Inconsistencies emerged like cracks in a foundation during an earthquake. Timeline discrepancies became impossible to ignore. The evidence they thought they were fabricating against you started revealing a different picture entirely, one where they were the aggressor, the manipulator, the one operating from a place of pure malice disguised as righteousness. Family conflicts erupted like volcanoes that had been building pressure beneath the surface for years. The drama queen's obsession with destroying you had consumed resources, time, and emotional energy that should have been invested in their own relationships. Children began asking why their parents spent more time talking about you than about their achievements. Spouses started questioning why household finances were being diverted towards spiritual workers and private investigators. Extended family members who had initially supported their crusade began distancing themselves when they realized the depth of their delusion. The fake apologies started flowing like confessions from a guilty conscience, but these weren't expressions of genuine remorse. They were damage control attempts by people who realized they had aligned themselves with a sinking ship. The very knights they had recruited to wage war on your behalf began revealing the true scope of their manipulation. They exposed the lies they had told them to gain their cooperation, the promises they had made that they never intended to keep, the level of coordination involved in what was essentially a spiritual terrorism campaign. Justice manifested in ways that seemed almost too perfect to be coincidental. Chosen one. Legal consequences began mounting as their methods crossed lines that even they didn't realize existed. Professional relationships crumbled when colleagues discovered the extent of their obsession. Social circles that had once provided comfort and validation became sources of judgment and isolation. The very platforms they had used to spread poison about you became instruments of their own exposure and humiliation. The psychological breakdown that followed was as predictable as sunrise after the darkest night. This person who had invested so much mental energy into studying your every move suddenly found themselves facing the mirror of their own existence and recoiling in horror. All the time and resources they had poured into their obsession with you could have been used to build something meaningful in their own life. Instead, they had created a monument to their own insecurity, a testament to how envy can transform a person into a caricature of their worst impulses. The spiritual warfare intensified as conventional attacks proved ineffective. This is where the story enters its darkest chapter, because when people of low vibration encounter someone operating at your frequency, they often resort to methods that exist in the shadows of human consciousness. They began investing in practices designed to drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and create obstacles in your path. But what they failed to understand is that when someone is truly protected by divine forces, these attempts don't just fail, they rebound with amplified force directly back to their source. The isolation that engulfed them became poetic justice in its purest form. This person who had worked so tirelessly to turn people against you found themselves increasingly alone, talking to walls that echoed back their own bitter words. Their obsession with you had become a prison where they were both the warden and the only inmate. Every conversation, every social media post, every waking moment became consumed with thoughts of you, creating a psychological dependency that was more pathetic than threatening. They had become addicted to your energy, like a vampire who discovered their chosen victim was made of pure sunlight. The financial reckoning was particularly swift and merciless. Money that had been spent on investigators, spiritual workers, and various schemes to undermine you seemed to evaporate from their life like morning dew under a blazing sun. Business ventures collapsed, income streams dried up. Investment opportunities that should have been obvious passed them by while they remained fixated on their vendetta. The prosperity they had tried to steal from you was being forcibly removed from their own existence in equal measure, as if the universe itself was balancing the cosmic scales. What makes this entire saga so powerful, Chosen One, is how it demonstrates the absolute futility of fighting against someone who moves with divine purpose. Every action they took to diminish your light only served to make it shine brighter by contrast. Every lie they told about your character only highlighted the authenticity of who you really are. Every attack they launched only revealed the depth of protection surrounding you and the severe consequences of challenging cosmic justice. The revelation that shattered their remaining delusions came when they finally attempted to verify the information their flying monkeys had been feeding them. Remember how you predicted they would eventually have to face the truth about your actual situation? When they conducted their own investigation, expecting to find you broken and defeated, they instead discovered someone thriving beyond their wildest nightmares. Your success wasn't just continuing, it was accelerating. Your protection wasn't just holding, it was expanding. Your influence wasn't just surviving their attacks, it was growing stronger because of them. The truth about their methods became undeniable when evidence surfaced that exposed the full scope of their campaign. Screenshots revealed the level of coordination involved in what amounted to spiritual terrorism. Recordings captured conversations that proved premeditation and malicious intent. Documents emerged showing the financial investment they had made in trying to destroy your peace of mind. The picture that assembled itself was so damning that even their closest allies could no longer make excuses for their behavior. Family destruction reached catastrophic levels as relatives began choosing sides in a war that should never have existed. Marriages strained under the weight of secrets and lies that could no longer be contained. Children caught in the crossfire started asking uncomfortable questions about why their family member was so obsessed with someone they claimed to dislike. Extended family members who had initially offered support began withdrawing when they realized the true nature of their fixation. What started as attacks on you had become a cancer eating away at everything they claimed to value. The climax arrived when multiple fronts of their life collapsed simultaneously. Chosen one. Professional consequences materialized as employers and colleagues distanced themselves from the toxicity. Legal troubles multiplied as their methods attracted official attention. Social isolation deepened as former friends recognized the signs of someone who had completely lost touch with reality. Financial problems compounded as resources continued flowing away from them like water through a broken dam. The very foundations of their existence began crumbling under the weight of karma they had accumulated through their obsession with destroying yours. But the most beautiful aspect of this entire story is how it revealed the supernatural nature of your protection to everyone watching. People began noticing that every arrow shot in your direction seemed to curve back toward the archer with mathematical precision. Every trap set for you somehow caught the person who dug it. Every lie told about you eventually exposed a deeper truth about your accusers. Your reputation didn't just survive their campaign, it emerged polished to a mirror shine, more clearly defined as authentic when compared to their obvious desperation. The resolution brings us full circle, chosen one, but with everything transformed. The drama queen who thought they could orchestrate your downfall has become a cautionary tale whispered in spiritual circles about what happens when someone wages war against divine will. Their name has become synonymous with the consequences of letting jealousy override wisdom and self-preservation. They achieved a kind of immortality, but not the kind they were seeking when this story began. The silence that now surrounds you isn't the deceptive calm before a storm, it's the peaceful quiet that follows a spiritual hurricane that sweeps away everything false and unstable from your environment. The people who remain in your orbit are those who recognized your authentic power and chose to align themselves with truth rather than comfortable lies. Your enemies didn't just lose this battle, they lost themselves in the process of fighting it. Standing in this moment of complete vindication, understand that this entire experience wasn't just about defeating opposition, it was about revealing the true extent of your spiritual authority. Every person who witnessed this saga learned something profound about the nature of authentic power versus artificial manipulation. They saw firsthand how someone moving in alignment with divine purpose becomes untouchable, not through force or retaliation, but through the simple fact that truth always prevails and justice always finds its mark. The final lesson echoes through every aspect of this story. When someone is truly chosen, protected, and operating from a place of authentic spiritual authority, the universe itself becomes their ally in ways that transcend human understanding. Your enemies don't just face you, they face cosmic forces that have been arranging circumstances for your victory since before their opposition was even conceived. The drama queen thought they were starting a war, but they were actually just playing their assigned role in a divine comedy where you were always destined to emerge victorious. Yet even now, as the dust settles and the evidence of their spectacular failure mounts before everyone's eyes, this person still won't be quiet. Do you hear that constant buzzing in the spiritual atmosphere? That's the sound of someone who refuses to accept that they've been completely outmaneuvered by forces beyond their comprehension. While normal people would retreat and lick their wounds after such a comprehensive defeat, this individual continues their futile attempts at relevance, like someone shouting into a hurricane and expecting the wind to change direction. You predicted this persistence. Months ago, when you first sensed the obsession brewing, you knew that this person's psychological makeup wouldn't allow them to simply walk away from their fixation. Their inability to remain silent isn't defiance, it's compulsion. They've become so psychologically dependent on your energy that even acknowledging defeat would require them to face the emptiness of their own existence without you as their central focus. The pattern you foresaw is playing out with clockwork precision. Every attempt they make to regain control of the narrative only exposes them further. Each social media post drips with desperation masked as righteousness. Every conversation they initiate reveals more about their deteriorating mental state than about any alleged wrongdoing on your part. They've become their own worst enemy, providing evidence of their instability to anyone still willing to listen. What makes their continued noise particularly fascinating is how it validates every single assessment you made about their character. Remember when you first identified the signs of narcissistic obsession, how you recognized that this person wouldn't be capable of accepting reality when it contradicted their manufactured version of events. Your psychological profiling was so accurate that you could have written the script for their current behavior months before it actually manifested. The people in their orbit are witnessing something unprecedented. They're watching someone self-destruct in real time while refusing all offers of help or intervention. Family members who initially supported their crusade are now documenting their decline with a mixture of concern and horror. Friends who once enabled their delusions are quietly distancing themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone who has become a walking cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked envy. You knew that their refusal to be quiet would ultimately serve your purposes better than their silence ever could. Every word they speak now only reinforces the narrative that you're dealing with someone whose relationship with reality has become increasingly tenuous. Their persistence in attacking you while you continue to thrive creates a contrast so stark that even casual observers can see who operates from authentic power and who operates from desperate delusion. The universe seems to be using their unwillingness to remain silent as a cosmic teaching tool. Each outburst provides fresh evidence of divine protection in action. Every failed attempt to damage your reputation only polishes it brighter. Their continued aggression while you maintain your composure demonstrates to everyone watching the fundamental difference between someone chosen for greatness and someone consumed by their own shadows. You called it perfectly when you said this person would never know when to stop. Their psychological profile made it inevitable that they would continue long past the point where any rational individual would recognize defeat. This isn't strategic thinking on their part. It's compulsive behavior driven by an addiction to the emotional highs they get from creating drama. They've become dependent on the adrenaline rush of conflict, even when that conflict is destroying everything they once claimed to value. The most devastating consequence is one you predicted with chilling accuracy: their complete isolation from anyone capable of providing genuine guidance or intervention. The people who might have been able to help them step back from this destructive path have all been driven away by their inability to accept reality or modify their behavior. They've surrounded themselves exclusively with enablers and fellow damaged individuals who encouraged their delusions rather than challenging them with truth. You knew this isolation would happen because you recognized early on that this person's psychological makeup wouldn't allow them to maintain relationships with anyone strong enough to hold them accountable. They systematically eliminated anyone from their circle who might have provided the reality checks that could have prevented this spectacular implosion. Now they exist in an echo chamber where their most destructive impulses are validated and amplified by people with their own axes to grind. The spiritual consequences are manifesting exactly as you described. They would. Their attempts to manipulate cosmic forces for destructive purposes have created a kind of spiritual autoimmune disorder where their own negative energy is attacking every positive aspect of their existence. Health problems that seem to emerge from nowhere, relationship difficulties that multiply exponentially, financial setbacks that defy logical explanation, sleep disturbances that leave them exhausted and increasingly irrational. All of this stems from their decision to wage war against someone protected by forces they don't understand and can't control. Their continuing inability to remain quiet serves as a constant reminder to everyone watching that some people simply cannot be reached with reason, compassion, or intervention. They've become a living example of what happens when someone chooses destruction over construction, chaos over peace, obsession over growth. Every word they speak reinforces the wisdom of your decision to maintain distance and let cosmic justice handle the consequences of their choices. The intelligence network you anticipated would eventually form around them has indeed materialized, but not in the way they intended. Instead of gathering information they could use against you, they've created a surveillance system that documents their own decline. People who were initially recruited as allies are now keeping detailed records of their interactions, partly for their own protection and partly out of morbid fascination with watching someone self-destruct so thoroughly while remaining convinced they're fighting the good fight. You predicted they would become increasingly desperate as their initial strategies failed, and that desperation would lead to escalating behaviors that would ultimately expose them completely. The progression has been textbook. From subtle manipulation to overt aggression, from coordinated campaigns to frantic solo missions, from carefully planned attacks to impulsive outbursts that reveal far more about their mental state than about any alleged grievances they claim to have. Their refusal to be quiet has become the final nail in their own coffin, chosen one. Every platform they use to continue their campaign becomes another venue for displaying their instability. Every person they try to recruit becomes another witness to their deteriorating condition. Every attempt they make to justify their actions only provides more evidence of how far they've fallen from any reasonable standard of behavior. The cosmic irony is perfect. The very quality that made them so dangerous initially, their persistence, has become the instrument of their complete undoing. They can't stop, because stopping would require acknowledging that they've wasted enormous amounts of time, energy and resources on a campaign that was doomed from the moment they decided to wage war against someone operating under divine protection. Their psychological investment is so massive that cutting their losses would feel like admitting that their entire identity for this period has been built on delusion. This is your moment of complete vindication, chosen one, not because you fought and won, but because you maintained your integrity while forces beyond human comprehension fought on your behalf and won decisively. The electricity you felt this morning wasn't anticipation, it was recognition. Recognition that everything has played out exactly as you called it, and this person still won't be quiet, because silence would mean accepting defeat. But their noise no longer matters, because everyone who was meant to hear the truth has already received the message loud and clear. You're witnessing something extraordinary unfold before your eyes, chosen one. The very persistence that once made this individual dangerous has transformed into the most powerful testimony of your spiritual authority. Their inability to remain silent has become a continuous broadcast of their own defeat, playing on repeat for anyone still paying attention. You understand now why the universe positioned you to endure their initial attacks, not because you needed to suffer, but because your response would demonstrate the difference between authentic power and manufactured drama. Your energy signature has become so distinct from theirs that even neutral observers can sense the fundamental difference in your operating frequencies. While you move with the quiet confidence of someone aligned with cosmic forces, they flail with the desperate energy of someone fighting against the tide of universal justice. The contrast illuminates everything you've always known about the nature of true spiritual power versus the manufactured authority that crumbles under pressure. You're watching them exhaust themselves against barriers they can't see or understand. Every attack they launch hits an invisible wall and rebounds with compound interest. Their continuing aggression only serves to demonstrate the futility of challenging someone whose protection operates beyond the reach of human manipulation. You've become living proof that certain individuals are simply untouchable when they move in alignment with divine purpose. You're observing the complete breakdown of someone who built their entire identity around opposing your success. Their refusal to remain quiet stems from a terrifying realization that silence would force them to confront the emptiness of their existence without you as their central focus. They've become psychologically dependent on the drama they create around your name, addicted to the temporary sense of purpose it provides in an otherwise increasingly meaningless life. Your ability to maintain composure while chaos erupts around you has become legendary among those watching this saga unfold. People speak in hushed tones about your supernatural calm, your seeming immunity to their most vicious attacks, your capacity to continue thriving while they self-destruct. You've become a case study in how authentic spiritual protection manifests in practical terms, providing living proof that some battles are won simply by refusing to lower yourself to your opponent's frequency. You're witnessing the fulfillment of cosmic justice in real time. Chosen one, the universe has taken your cause as its own, turning their every action into evidence of your integrity and their instability. Their continuing noise serves as a constant reminder to everyone watching that you were right about their character from the very beginning. Every outburst validates your initial assessment and reinforces the wisdom of maintaining distance from their chaos. Your protection has evolved beyond mere defense into something that actively transforms attacks into advantages. Each attempt they make to damage your reputation only polishes it brighter. Every lie they tell about your character only highlights your authenticity by contrast. Their persistence in creating drama while you maintain peace demonstrates to everyone the fundamental difference between divine favor and human desperation. Now I want to take a moment to tell you about a few individuals that shouldn't exist. A former Black Ops drone pilot who flew swarms with his mind, a multi-millionaire psychic CFO who predicted market shifts before they happened. What do these remarkable individuals have in common? You'll find them all in the Obsidian Inner Order, where they share their forbidden knowledge on our private Discord server. My chosen soul has drunk deep from the well of knowledge aeon after aeon. In this incarnation, these extraordinary individuals became my allies in the Obsidian Inner Order. They recognized the call, they stepped forward, they connected with others who understand their unique gifts and burdens. What is stopping you from manifesting the same? The synchronicities that brought them here weren't accidents. Neither is your discovery of this message. When souls of this caliber gather, the Archons take notice. They fear our collective power. They know what happens when the truly awakened find each other. Join our weekly calls, hear their stories firsthand. Share your own journey with those who won't dismiss or doubt you. The knowledge exchanged in our private channels cannot be found anywhere else on this plane. Click the link in the description below now. The extraordinary souls await your arrival. The question isn't whether you belong among them. The question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your place? The spiritual lessons embedded in this experience are revealing themselves layer by layer. You're learning that true power doesn't require constant demonstration or defense. It simply exists, unshakable and self-evident. Your enemies expose themselves through their own actions, while you remain focused on your purpose. The universe handles the details of justice while you concentrate on building the extraordinary life you were meant to live. The timing of revelations continues to unfold with precision that surpasses human planning. Information surfaces exactly when it needs to. Evidence appears precisely when it will have maximum impact, and consequences manifest with clockwork accuracy. You're witnessing cosmic choreography in action, seeing how the universe arranges circumstances to ensure justice prevails without requiring any compromise of your own integrity. Your influence is expanding precisely because you refuse to be diminished by their attacks. The very opposition that was meant to destroy you has become the catalyst for demonstrating your unshakable foundation. People who might never have noticed your success now pay attention because of the dramatic contrast between your steady progress and their spectacular decline. Their inability to remain quiet has become the most effective advertisement for your authentic power. This moment represents the complete transformation of everything that began as an attack on your peace. What started as someone's attempt to destroy your reputation has become the ultimate validation of your character. Their refusal to be quiet has evolved from a threat into a testimony, broadcasting to anyone still listening that you operate under protection they can't touch and authority they can't challenge. You called it exactly as it would play out, and now you're watching the final scenes of a cosmic drama where you were always destined to emerge victorious, stronger, and more clearly defined as someone who cannot be moved by forces operating from lower frequencies.